Hi, I am Robin. Welcome to Movie 12 and Day 12 of reviewing Disney Plus movies. Today, I'm talking about the movie Avatar that came out in 2009. I had never seen this movie before, so what I've heard about it is there's a lot of blue people because the Na'vi are blue. They're like huge, but they're blue, people-ish, and it's very pretty, but not that good. So that's what I was going into this movie with. A lot of blue people. They're very big, not that good. Here's my spoiler-free summary. There's some military stuff. There's the Na'vi, who are the giant blue people. Humans look very small to them, like compared to them. We see Na'vi culture, we see human military culture and science, and some stuff happens. There's some fighting between some characters. And then the movie ends. Okay. More in-depth movie. It starts and it's very military-like. The main character is Jake. Jake had a twin brother who passed away like a week or so before they left to travel to Pandora. It's a 5-year journey. They are in a cryogenic chamber. Maybe they're asleep while they travel for a really long time. Jake was sent because they make your avatar with a combination of your DNA and Na'vi DNA. So Jake and his brother had like identical genomes because I guess they were identical twins. Maybe, probably. But they were twins, so that would make sense. Identical twins. And so if they sent Jake, they didn't have to spend a whole lot of money on a new avatar. Jake's legs don't work. He was a Marine and something happened, so his legs don't work now. But in the avatar, his legs work because it's your mind linked to it, not your whole body. So Avatar, he can run and jump and do everything, so it's great. When the main character guy is talking at the beginning, if you've been on Avatar Flights of Passage at Disney World, you know how the scientist has that like kind of jerky start and stop way of talking where you aren't quite sure where he's going with it for a while. That was like him. The main character guy kind of had the same weird pausing as the guy from the ride when they first see the avatars. Thankfully, he doesn't do that for the whole movie because that would have been a little annoying. Grace, the scientist, who you also see in the ride a little bit, is kind of a jerk. So I've been on the rides at Disney, like Flights of Passage, amazing. Na'vi River Journey, cool. Not as dramatic as Flights of Passage. Flights of Passage is like takes your breath away, beautiful, you're in it. Na'vi River Journey is more like small world. Here is a setting, but not a story. Kind of wish I'd known that before I went on it the first time. Would have been in a better mindset, but that's okay. If you haven't been on it, know that it is more of a setting, place, than a story. So, he goes out, he runs when he's not supposed to, but it's fun. He does it well. Grace doesn't care. The military people are there to get unobtainium. I can't really take that name seriously. Some bad things happen because of unobtainium because it's unobtainable. There's apparently a really big deposit of it under the Na'vi's, like one of their sacred places. And they have a lot of sacred places, but that's because everything on their planet is interconnected. Grace describes it closer to the end as like a neural network. So it's all interconnected. So yeah, it is sacred because it's like part of them. So that makes sense. Jake touches, there's like a plant, and when he touches it, they shrink down, which is pretty cool. It looks fun to go boop them all, but then they like all shrink, and you're like, what? And there's this angry, it looks kind of like if you combine a rhino with a hammerhead shark on land. Big bar at the front, scary. So they all go away. Jake kind of eventually escapes. He's out at night. They're like, he won't survive till morning. Spoiler, he dies. there's an Avatar lady named Natiri who was a very important character. Natiri like shoots all these creatures that are about to kill him, and she's like, they didn't need to die. It's your fault that they died. But then the Will-o'-the-Wisp, they look like Will-o'-the-Wisp from Brave. They're not, but that's what they look like to me. They float down. You also see them on the rides at Disney. So they're cute. Kind of stop the Navi lady, Natiri, from killing Jake because they're like, AiI communicates with them, through them, kind of. They're pure spirits. They're called seeds of the sacred tree. Very pure spirits, says Natiri. So she says that he's like, you didn't have to save me. And she's like, I saved you because you have a strong heart, no fear, but stupid, like an ignorant child. That was funny. Well, ignorant like a child, close enough. You get the context. She calls humans sky people, which makes, yeah. She takes into her family. Her dad is not the chief, but I don't remember what word they used. He's in charge, but her mom is the spiritual leader, like the shaman. And when they're no longer in charge, there's a guy who will become the leader, and Natiri will become the shaman, spiritual leader lady, who, like, she translates the will of AiI. The guy who's going to become the chief man, be in charge of their clan society, is pledged to be bonded with Natiri. So they're going to be a couple. So going into it, that Natiri seems nice. Well, Natiri seems protective of her society, which makes sense. Like, he's a random avatar showing up. They wear very natural, minimal clothing, and he's like in human clothing. So they changed that. But her dad, her parents tell her that she has to teach him the ways because he's a warrior. So they're like, fine, we won't kill him. We won't kick him out. Then their hair, they have these long braids, but their hair has these little tentacle things coming out of the bottom that bond with stuff. And that was weird to me. Like, an interesting approach, but it was weird. So like the animal has a little, kind of big antennas, and they go and bond. Odd. There's the legendary floating mountains of Pandora are called the Hallelujah Mountains. You see those in Disney World. So I've seen them from Imagineer's creation, which was amazing. Also pretty cool in the movie. Also amazing in the movie. I think that if I'd seen this movie on a bigger screen in a movie theater, like Daniel saw it the first time when it came out in a movie theater. I hadn't seen it until last night. So I think that a lot of the scenes would have been a lot more impactful on a giant screen, which is great if you got to see it in a movie theater. But a lot of people don't, and a lot of people will be born after that movie came out, so they will miss out on that experience. And I just didn't go see it in theaters. Kind of wish I had, but it was long. It's a long movie. So anyway, there's the ekrons that are they're not birds, but they fly, but they're huge. So closest we have birds, but they're not birds. They're like more reptilian-ish, kind of more dinosaur-y. So they ride those. You choose an ekron and it has to choose you. Jake is like going through this thing to become a man, full-fledged member of society. So he picks an ekron and it picks him. And he's like, to Natiri, he's like, how will I know if he chooses me? He will try to kill you. Outstanding. Great. A great way to know that something likes you, picks you. I don't know. So then he has to do the bond. So he has to connect his hair tentacles with its tentacles. And then Natiri's like, first ride, you gotta go. And so he's riding and it's not going well, but then he's like starts telling it what to do and thinking it, and it immediately works because they're bonded. This movie kind of made more things on the attraction make more sense, but it kind of didn't, because why are we there? But I'll get to that later. Maybe not. I don't know. There's something called a Toruk. I think that's how you pronounce it. Only 5 Na'vi have been chosen by Toruk. It's like the predators of everything. It tries to catch Natiri and Jake when they're riding their ekrons, but they escape it. Only 5 Na'vi have ever been chosen by a Taruk, and then it's called a Taruk Makto, which is like rider of the Taruk, and Taruk is like means last shadow because it's the last shadow you ever see. When Jake is back to his human body, he tells us, the viewers, that the Na'vi world feels like his real life, which is cool. I don't like the bad military guy. He at the beginning was like, Jake, you're gonna work for me. You're gonna like do what Grace tells you, but you're really working for me. And he's like, yeah, okay. So he tells them about the Tree of Souls and he's telling them this stuff, but then he doesn't get a report in 2 weeks. But the guy's like, yeah, it's fine. You can leave eventually. Then he's like, you've only been here 3 months, even though you're supposed to be here for 6 years, but we're going to send you back and you can get your legs fixed. And he's like, I'm almost a full-fledged member of the people, which is what they call their group, capital T, capital P, the people. So he's like, fine, whatever. So Jake tells us that you're born twice in the Na'vi. The first time is when you're born, and the second time is when you earn your place among the people forever. So Jake earns it. It's great. We see the tree of voices. The voices of ancestors are there, and it's a place to pray and sometimes have prayers answered. So that was cool. Neytiri tells Jake that he gets to choose a woman, a mate for life. And she's like listing a couple Na'vi, and he's like, yeah, she's great at flying, but I don't want her. Yeah, she is a great hunter. I don't want her. She's great at singing. I kind of made some of those up, but he's like, but I've already chosen. And she's like, oh, he's like, but she has to choose me back. And she says, I have chosen you. But she was pledged to be with that other guy. So we're just ignoring that. And then they mate. I guess their hair's mated. Babe, I don't really know. And she says, we are mated for life. And then they go to sleep. And then he wakes up and he asks himself what he's doing. She wakes up to bulldozers. And Jake won't wake up because he isn't in the avatar body. And the prayer tree, the voices of the ancestors being destroyed. Jake goes up under the bulldozer and wakes up. Breaks the cameras and they shoot at him. They realize it's him. And then the movie is only halfway over. So much has happened. And it's just going still. It's another like hour. It's like a 3-hour movie, almost 3 hours. That's a long time. It was a good story, but it's just so long. So, mated for life, bulldozers, only halfway over, bad guys, awful. Grace is like, the whole planet is a network, like a brain. And then the bad guys tell them that Grace and Jake have 1 hour to get the people out, and then they're knocking it all over. So they go back into their avatar bodies. Jake tells the Na'vi that they sent him to build trust and eventually get them to leave. And Neytiri feels very betrayed. Jake and Grace get tied up. Neytiri's mom frees Jake and Grace, like, because they're about to die. The bad guy's a jerk. I really don't like him. I wrote that like multiple times on my notes because he's just awful. I know that's his point, and he does it well. And then the dad, Neytiri's dad, gets impaled, and he dies. He gives Neytiri his bow and tells her to like lead the people, rule, and she's very distraught because her father just died, and she's losing everything. The bad guy tells them to pull the plug, so Grace and Jake come out, like are forced out. Ned punches somebody after the bad guy's like, get him out. He punches him, and the guy like holds his face and then opens one of their link chambers. And I think they handcuff Ned to something. Ned is the scientist guy. I haven't mentioned Ned. Ned is the guy that goes with Jake. Like Ned kind of knew Jake's brother, or at least knew who he was. And so they've been like kind of together. Grace is the only other avatar besides Jake who gets to go into their society sometimes. So, quote from Jake. He said, I was a lawyer who dreamed he could bring peace. Sooner or later, though, you always have to wake up. Sad. Also, he literally does have to wake up because they force him out of the avatar body. So then they're put in research jail. So it's Ned, Grace, and Jake. Duh. Ned, Grace, and Jake. And then Trudy, who's the pilot that we've seen multiple times, Trudy's good. She turned away earlier. She's like, I didn't sign up for this, and like went away when they were messing stuff up. but somehow they didn't realize that she was on the good guy's side. And so she's like pushes in a cart of food and is like, hey, guard's name, I don't think these people deserve steak, but that's what they sent. And he's like, let me see. And he looks inside it and she like knocks him out, knocks him down. And then she gets him out of jail. There's also another guy who helps named Matt. Max the scientist. So Trudy the pilot and Max the scientist break him out. And then Jake is like, Max, I need you to stay because I need someone on the inside I can trust. And Max is like, okay. And that was probably a good idea because Max can tell him what's happening. Bad guy is super inconsiderate. He sees them flying away in the plane. And the Navi atmosphere has gas that's dangerous to humans. So if you're without it for like a minute, you die. Without oxygen out in the air. There we go. That's what I meant. So they have these masks that they wear. But the bad guy's super inconsiderate. He sees them. He goes outside. I think he might yell masks on or somebody else does. But they don't have time to put them on before he bursts out of the door and starts shooting at them while they're flying away. And he lets gas get inside to everybody else. So they have to scramble to put masks on. And then somebody brings a mask out to him. And honestly, I don't think he deserved a mask. That was really fast. Hopefully you understood me. He gets a mask. If this is jumpy, sorry. Sometimes my YouTube thing like counts backwards a second. So I think we miss a couple words. Grace got shot. It's like in her side stomach area and it looks pretty bad. They have little lab pods, like there's a big one, but then they go out. They'd moved out so that they were away from the bad guy. Earlier, when Grace saw that Jake was reporting to the bad guy. So they moved them out somewhere, but now they get them and move them somewhere else so that the bad guy has no idea where they are. Deep in the mountains. We want the Navi to save Grace. That is our hope, that they will save her. So Jake says, sometimes your life boils down to one insane move. And then his Ikron comes to him, and then we're flying over the Taruk, the big, scary, bad guy. So Jake says, the way I had it figured, Taruk is the baddest cat in the sky. Nothing attacks him. So why would he ever look up? That was just a theory. So Jake jumps onto the Taruk, and will he die? Will he bond with it? He bonds with it. He is the 6th ever Taruk Makto, rider of the Last Shadow. Pretty awesome. And a really good way to get respect. So he goes, flies to the Navi and is like, what up? Please save Jake. And Neytiri was like, I was afraid for my people. I'm no longer afraid. They're going to help Grace, and she's not wearing regular clothes. She's just wearing vines. I don't know how they do that, but it's pretty snazzy. The spiritual leader, Neytiri's mom, is like, AiI may bring her back into her avatar body, but also she might be too far gone. But then in Navi, they ask AiI to have Grace be brought back as one of the people. So put her in her avatar body. And then Grace has the oxygen mask on, and she like her eyes are closed, but then she opens her eyes and tells Jake that she's with AiI, and she's like, she's real. And then Grace dies. And they say, she's with AiI now. Take her mask off. Then Jake is smart. He's thinking and realizing that other people matter too. And he asks the guy who was supposed to be in charge, who was supposed to be mated with Neytiri, who, like, he is in charge, kind of, if he will translate for Jake. And that was smart, a good way to get him included. So Jake says, this is a big speech, but it was a good one. He says, the sky people have sent us a message that they can take whatever they want, that no one can stop them. Well, we will send them a message. You ride out as fast as the wind can carry you. You tell the other clans to come. Tell them Taruk Makto calls them. You fly now with me, my brothers, sisters, and we will show the sky people that they cannot take whatever they want, and that this is our land. What a good speech. I'm not even in that world, and I was inspired. So we did pretty well. And then they go, and they get the horse clans and the Ikron people of the Eastern Sea. Everyone comes when Taruk Makto calls. The bad guy is a jerk. I don't like him. The in-charge guy doesn't look super on board with this plan, but he goes with it. Bad guys are coming and they don't see any movement. And then there's Ekrons on the floating rock walls. Jake has a gun and everybody else has their bows. But science guy, Ned, also has a gun. He's with the horse people. So the horse people start running and the Ekrons come and Jake's flying animal that I think he was on his Taruk then? See it? He was on his flying vehicle and grabbed a helicopter and threw it down. And then, so they tell us earlier that the Na'vi people's arrows have poison on them and you'll die really fast. But an arrow shot through a helicopter window. So we didn't even need the poison. They're just super strong, which is interesting because earlier the arrows were not doing that kind of damage. I don't know if they got new arrows or if they cared more now, so they were doing better or what. So, the pilot, Trudy, I like her. She's flying a helicopter. She has like a blue face paint stripe and a white face paint stripe under it, and then like featherish nature things in her hair. So she is embodying the spirit of the Na'vi with her style because they're blue and they have like white dots that glow sometimes. Like their world is bioluminescent, so they are too. So I don't know. I liked her. She was just good consistently. Her helicopter got shot, so I think she died. But actually, she might not have. But it looked like she was going to die because her helicopter got shot. You can watch it and you can tell me. The scary Na'vi leader guy, the in-charge guy, but he was pretty scary, jumps onto the bad guy's bomb ship because they're about to dump their giant thing of explosives onto their, I think it was on the tree at that point, an important sacred spot that would devastate the Na'vi. So he jumps onto their ship and he kills a few of the humans before he gets shot and dramatically falls like in slow motion down, and you just look down on him falling. But that was all he got. It was dramatic, but that was all he got. I feel like he should have gotten maybe a little more drama with his death. Another Na'vi also comes in like as he's kind of going out, and then it looks like that Na'vi might be getting shot, but it's as our guy is falling out. So we follow our guy. Trudy's helicopter had gotten shot. When I said it looked like she died, her helicopter's going down. The science guy, Ned, got shot, so his avatar kind of died. So he is now back to a human state. Jake tells Natiri, who's down on the ground, not to attack with her bow because he's like, it's not safe, don't do it. And she looks like she's not going to listen and she's going to shoot, but then she kind of comes back. And then the giant scary rhinos show up and they take the bad guys out and they leave Natiri alone. And then Natiri's like, Jake, AiI has heard you. AiI has heard you. Because Jake had prayed earlier to AiI for help. And Natiri was like, AiI doesn't take sides. Our mother doesn't take sides. She just protects the balance of life. But AiI did take a side, and she did it well. Scary flying bird things show up, Ekrons, maybe Taruks. And then I refer to them as scary land guys. They look kind of like cheetahs. So they could show up, and then you're like, will Natiri be okay? She is. He bows to Natiri. One of them does. That was pretty cool. The bad guy's ship exploded with Jake's help. Like the giant ship that the main bad guy is on explodes. At least explodes. But the bad guy gets in this, it's like a giant mech suit. So he looks like a giant man that he's controlling and moving. He finds the lab with Jake's link chamber inside. If Jake is brought out of the link, then Jake can't fight anymore because, I mean, he would want to, but he has to use a wheelchair. His legs are very weak and looks like they might have gotten smaller because, well, he traveled for 5 years and then he's just in the link chamber most of the time. He's not exercising his human body, just his avatar body. So bad guy is about to kill Natiri when Avatar Jake shows up. I was really afraid that Jake's human body, and so therefore all of Jake, was going to die because the bad guy was going to make him lose oxygen. And then that started happening. The bad guy like pops a hole in the lab, so the gas is getting in there. You have to make those really airtight. The bad guy has Jake by his Na'vi hair and is about to kill him. And then Neytiri shoots the bad guy, and then he like stumbles, but he doesn't fall over. And then she shoots him again, and he's again in this mech suit, so he's like up there, but they're kind of big too, so they're not like that big of a difference, but there is a difference. Then Jake goes back to his human self and is gasping for air, so he moves his wheelchair out of the way, which that would have helped him be tall enough to get the oxygen mask. But he moves it out of the way, which might have been on accident, and like falls to the ground and tries to reach the oxygen mask that's way up. I mean, it's like standing height, it's a reasonable height, but laying on the ground height, it's not a very good height. So he like half gets it out, and then he kind of passes out. But Neytiri goes in and puts the mask on him, and he lives. So he like gets oxygen, and then he gasps and puts it on the rest of the way. And they're like, I see you. I see you, which is a thing, like capital SC, not just, yeah, I see you, you see me. It's like, I see you, I know you. It was a big thing earlier in the movie. And she like cradles his little human body. So then the voiceover tells you that most aliens, which are the humans, were sent away and only a few get to stay. So that includes like Ned, Grace, Jake. Don't remember if Trudy was alive, but if she was, she would definitely get to stay. So if humans get to stay, and the rest of them are shipped off, and they're like walking all somberly, and the Na'vi are just standing there with their bows and arrows ready to shoot them if they have to. It's effective. And then they talk to the tree of voices, AiI, pray, and Jake is completely in his avatar body, so he's like he is one of the Na'vi now. So then he gets to use his body. He doesn't have to use a link chamber. Ned doesn't have an avatar body anymore. And Grace doesn't get to stay. Grace died. I forgot that. I wanted her to live. Grace doesn't stay. She's dead. But like Ned and Jake and a few others stay. So maybe Trudy was alive. I don't know. But Jake has permanent legs. Very happy. The end. Daniel's comments. 7 hours later, it's over. Avatar is a 6.8. Great visuals, especially considering it was in 2009. But it's just so long and the characters are mediocre. Certainly worth watching once. Now I've seen it twice because he loves me, so he watched it with me. I said, really long though. It could have been 2 movies. Totally would have been on board with the movies of this. They did it with the last Hunger Games book. They've done it with Harry Potter. We could have done it with this story. I mean, they would have been more like 2 reasonable length movies instead of 2 long movies, but that would be good with me. I am curious as to how the other humans live on the planet. Like, how does Ned live? His avatar body doesn't exist anymore. Do they make him a new one? Do they pray to AiI and have him transformed? Is that a thing? I don't know. I'm curious. Maybe they will tell me in future movies. I gave the plot a 9. I really didn't have issues with the plot. It just didn't quite feel like a 10. It was long, so I guess I can count that in the plot. It was long. But other than that, it was a good, engaging story. It just kept going. I give the characters a 7. I don't really feel emotionally invested in or connected to them overall. It could have been more heart-wrenching when the dad died, but it wasn't. I did feel for Neytiri. Like, I was like, man, that's sad. She's very upset. But no, like, deep emotional. Like, in The Lion King, when Mufasa dies, Simba, heartbroken, and you feel for him. But in this, I kind of felt for her, but I hadn't really seen their relationship. So it wasn't as sad as it could have been. So yeah, they're pretty good quality characters. You know who will be bad at the beginning, but you're still willing to go along for the ride. Overall, I gave it a 7.75. It was a great movie, I thought. It was very pretty and an engaging story. It was just too long. But it was good. I will probably watch more of them. And I would not mind watching this movie again if I split it up into like hour-long segments because it just kept going. But I am wondering now when I go back to Disney if things in Pandora will mean more to me. Also, okay, so a thing that I mentioned earlier that I'm circling back to. In Flights of Passage, why are we going to ride Ekrans when, one, it bonds for life? So we're just being matched with random avatars that have been bonded to Ekrans that don't have our genetic makeup? Or we're just like taking Ekrans from people. It's just a little fuzzy. So I will pay more attention that I know the rules of the movie and the civilization and see how it works. Also, like, why did we come back? Are they okay with us just rolling up back in here and being like, we're gonna do tourism on your continent, world? There we go. Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know if they would call them countries. Probably not. So anyway, I liked Avatar. It was very long. It was pretty. I know that people aren't as super into it, but it was a good story. It just kept going. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you are having a good day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.